My name is Lin Hao. I am 21 years old. I am an ordinary college student. I usually only go to classes and play games. My biggest dream is to find a stable job after graduation and spend a small life. That night, as usual, I was playing in the dormitory. The screen of my phone was filled with swords and shadows. It was so hot that I suddenly heard a loud noise, as if the sky was falling. Then my eyes turned dark and I fainted. When I opened my eyes again, I realized that I was no longer in the dormitory. There was a deserted ruin around, and the ground was full of cracks, as if it was torn open by something. The sky was gray and there was still a red flash. The air was filled with a burnt smell. I lowered my head and saw that I was still in the pajamas, with flip-flops on my feet and not even a mobile phone in my hand. The whole person seemed to have been thrown into a certain apocalyptic movie. What's going on? I said to myself. My brain was full of trouble, thinking if I was dreaming, so I pinched myself hard. Alas, I was so painful that I was so excited that I was sure this was not a dream. I started to look for someone to ask about the situation, but there was no ghost here, only the sound of the wind blowing through the ruins, and it sounded strange and terrifying. Just as I was about to look for a direction, a low growl came from a distance, like a wild beast, or something more terrifying. My heart was tightened, and I squatted down tightly, hid behind a broken stone, and poked out and looked over. Only in the ruins far away, several black shadows walked over, wearing a broken cloak, holding a curved sword in their hands, and an iron mask on their faces. They couldn't see the appearance clearly, but the murderous aura could be felt even from the old distance. What is this? Is cosplay? I muttered in a low voice, but my heart was already getting wet. Those guys clearly didn't come to make friends. Every time they took a step, the ground was slightly shaken, as if they were carrying some strange power. I dared not speak, hold my breath, praying that they should not find me. Unfortunately, the weather has never stood by me. One of the shadows suddenly stopped and turned to look at me. Although I was separated by the mask, I could feel that my eyes were locked in a pet. My heart beat faster and there was only one thought in my brain: run. I didn't care about it, and I turned around and ran away, and the flip-flops under my feet were almost running away. The black shadows behind immediately let out a sharp roar, and then chased after them, with speed that was less fast, and it felt like they were stepping on the flames. I ran and slammed myself. Why didn't I suck my body much? Now I'm running so hard that my legs are running, and my lungs are almost blowing. After running for a few steps, a huge crack suddenly appeared in front, like a crack in the sky, unable to see the bottom, and there was still a red light below. I rushed to drive and almost fell down. When I turned around, I saw that the black shadows were approaching, and the sword light flashed with cold light under the dim light. My heart sank. It's over, I really have to explain it here. At this moment, a dazzling white light suddenly lit up in the sky, as if the sun suddenly exploded, and then a cold voice came from the air: in the name of the star, cleanse the darkness. As the voice fell, a beam of light fell from the sky and directly hit the black shadows. They screamed with silence, and their bodies seemed to be burned, instantly turning into a pile of black and gray. I stood there in a daze. My brain had not reacted yet, and I heard the sound of walking from behind. When I turned around, I saw a woman in a long white robe walking over. She looked over 20 years old and looked particularly beautiful. Her silver-colored hair was flying in the wind, and her eyes seemed to be glowing, carrying a majesty that could not be described. He held a staff carved with scattered patterns in his hand, and a blue gem was embedded at the top of the staff, emitting a faint light. She walked up and down to me, then opened her mouth. Who are you? Why did this forbidden area appear? I made a mouthful and had a lot of questions in my brain, but at the end I only said, Sister, where is this? Why am I? Her eyebrows slightly looked as if she didn't understand what I was saying, but then her expression became a little calmer and said, This is the land of the world of the sky splitting, the place where the brave men summoned. Can you be the one who was chosen? Brave? Calling? What's the matter? I was confused and felt like I was listening to a book. She didn't say anything more, but just stretched out her hand, facing her palm up, and recited a few words that she didn't understand. The next second, I felt a warm current coming from her hand, and then a translucent light curtain appeared in front of me, showing some strange runes, and something similar to the game interface, writing several words called a legend. This is. I widened my eyes and felt like I was playing a VR game, but it was too real. This is your innate power, calling for legends, only the true brave ones can possess. She said calmly, but there was a shock in her eyes. I am Alyssa Starfly, the priest of the Starfly clan, and your guide. From now on, you will shoulder the mission of saving the Great Sky Break. I heard a fog, but probably understood that this place was not the Earth, and I was not dreaming, but was inexplicably pulled to a place called Tianli Mainland, and became a brave man. To be honest, I don't want to be a brave man at all. I just want to go home, but looking at Alyssa's true expression, I know there is no choice for this matter. Then, what do I have to fuck? I asked carefully, afraid that she would lose any more miserable tasks. Alyssa glanced at me and said, your mission is to awaken the sleeping spirit of the world's overlords and rebuild the order of this vast land. But now, you have not even mastered the most basic power of calling. Come with me, and I will teach you how to use this power. I clicked my head, but my heart was still full of ups and downs, but at least I had someone to take the lead, and I was actually being chased by those dark shadows. So, I followed Alyssa through the ruins and walked towards a dilapidated temple far away. On the way, she briefly told me about the background of this world, saying that the Sky Soma was once ruled by 7 overlords of the world. Later, the dark forces invaded. The overlords either fell or were sealed. Now the mainland is in trouble and monsters. And I, as a brave man, must awaken the souls of those overlords in order to fight against the power of darkness. After hearing these, I felt that this task was too heavy. I am an ordinary person and I can't even fight. How could I have such a big deal? But Alyssa said in a head-on manner, I can't respond, so I can only listen with my head. When I arrived at the temple, I found that although this place was old, I could still see the atmosphere of that year. The huge stone pillars were carved with various monsters and warriors. There was a sacrificial priest in the center, which was engraved with runes and radiating faint light. Alyssa let me stand before the fortress, and then started chanting the mantra. The sound was low and powerful, as if it could penetrate time. With her spell, the light on the fort became brighter and brighter. I suddenly felt a warm wrist. When I looked down, I saw a golden mark on my hand, like the shape of a crown, and was intimately burning. Alyssa stopped the spell and looked at me and said, this is the seal of the crown, which proves that you are the true brave. From now on, you can awaken the sleeping soul through it. I looked at the notes on my hand and felt a little excited, but more of it was stress. Alyssa continued, the first call is the most important thing. We need to wake up a loyal guard to protect you. Are you ready? I swallowed, and slighted my head, thinking that no matter what, I will try it first. So, I followed Alyssa's instructions, closed my eyes, focused my mind, and tried to feel the marks on my hands. At first I didn't feel anything, but slowly, a vague shadow appeared in my brain, like a short but unusually strong warrior, holding a huge warrior in his hand and a breath of blood radiated from his body. It's him. Alyssa's voice sounded in my ears, please focus, call him out. I bit my teeth tightly, so I felt that the whole body was exhausted. Finally, the seal on my hand suddenly lit up, and a ray of light appeared in front of the fortress, and then a dwarf warrior walked out of the light. He was wearing thick armor and full of beards, his eyes were filled with a sense of fear of being arrogant, and the ground shook as soon as the war in his hand was shaken. My name is Graham, the guardian of the ancient overlords, listen to the call of the brave. His voice was as deep as thunderbolts. After saying that, he knelt down and bowed to me. When I watched this scene, my brain was a little short-circuited, and I felt like I was acting in a movie, but I felt relieved. At least now there was a guy who seemed very good at helping me. Alyssa pointed out, saying, Graham is a trustworthy warrior. With him, you don't have to worry about your safety at all. But this is just the beginning. The dark force will soon discover your existence. We must leave here and head to the sealed land of the first Overlord spirit. I heard her, and my heart was filled with silences, and I felt that I was being rolled into a battle that was not mine at all. But looking at Graham's determined look and Alyssa's cold attitude, I knew that escaping was impossible. I could only walk on my head and see what secrets were hidden in the cracked land this day. Let's go, brave. Graham stood up, carried the battle, and pointed at me. I took a deep breath and followed them out of the temple, taking the first step towards the unknown road. After leaving the old temple, our group and 3 set out on our way to the first Overlord soul-sealed place. The sky was still so gray, and occasionally red flashes passed by, as if it would slash down at any time. The ground was filled with cracks and dead grass, and the wind blew and rolled up sand, making people confused. I dragged my tired body and followed Alyssa and Graham. The flip-flops on my feet had already worn out, and I felt that the base of my feet was so painful that it took me every step. Hey, Alyssa, where are we going? How long will we have to go? I couldn't help asking, the sound was filled with complaints. In fact, I really didn't expect that any brave man would have to hike through this ghost place on the first day, and there was no transportation tool. Alyssa glanced at me, and she still had the cold and crazy expression on her face. She said lightly, "Our destination is the Bone Blade Valley, which is the sealed place of the first Overlord soul. According to ancient books, there are fragments of the Iron Wall Overlord soul. If you can wake him up, you can gain his power and fight against the darkness. As for how far it is, it will be about 3 days." 3 days? I almost jumped up. Sister, my feet are almost gone, and I'm still wearing pajamas. Do you let me walk for 3 days? Is there any magic or something that can fly directly? Alyssa's eyebrows slightly, as if she was a little impatient with my complaints, but she still explained patiently, "Magic is not all energy, brave. There is a strong restriction around the Bone Blacking Valley, and any magic being sent will be interfered. We can only walk by 2 feet. Moreover, your summoning power is not stable, and over-relying on magic will only make you more vulnerable." I rolled my eyes so much that I thought that there was no such broken setting, and there was no benefit for novices. But looking at her true feelings, I didn't say anything more, so I could only continue to leave with my head down. Graham next to him was quite happy. He carried the huge battle, humming some tunes he didn't understand while walking, and chatting with me in his low voice. "Don't be brave, don't be drooping. When I and the old master fought against the vast land, I had been trekking in the wilderness for several months, and I couldn't even eat hot food. You just started, and you still have to practice." He grinned, revealing his yellow teeth, which looked a bit generous. I smiled reluctantly and complained in my heart, "You are an ancient person, can you be different from me? As a modern person, I usually run at most 800 meters and feel like a dog. Now I have to walk for 3 days, which is so simple." The first day was unusually difficult. After walking for a few hours, it became darker and the wind became colder, making me shiver. Alyssa found a cave with her back to rest. Graham skillfully set up a fire, and the flames leaped, which made this ghost place more warm. I sat next to the fire, rubbing my sore legs, and couldn't help asking, "Alicia, what exactly is this Iron Wall Overlord? Why did I look for him the first one?" Alyssa sat opposite her staff, her eyes falling on the fire, her lingering and silenced with a heavy slim. "The Iron Wall Overlord is the most powerful of the 7 Overlords of the Edge. He once defended the northern edge of the Sky Rift with his own strength to resist the invasion of countless dark creatures. His soul fragments were sealed in the bone-shattered valley because it was his last battle. His power, in terms of defense and endurance, is the most suitable first ally for you. It sounds pretty awesome." I was a little bit too curious about this Iron Wall Overlord. Then why was he sealed? Didn't he say these overlords are very strong? Alyssa was silent for a while, with a complex emotion flashing in her eyes, and then she said in a low voice, "The invasion of the Dark Force is more terrifying than you think. That year, the overlords fell down one by one, and wanted to fall down and be sealed. The overlords were the last person to choose to sacrifice themselves. He used all his strength to seal the attack path of the Dark Force, but he also exhausted his vitality. The soul was forbidden in the bone-broken island valley, waiting for the real brave to wake him up. When I heard these, my heart felt a little heavy, and I felt that the history of breaking the mainland this day was even more intense than I thought. Graham, who was next to him, also stopped wiping the war and said in a low voice, "The Overlord of the Iron Wall is a real warrior. If I can see him again, I will definitely drink with him." The flames reflected on Graham's face, illuminating the respect in his eyes. I didn't say anything more, just clenched my fists silently, thinking that no matter what, I always had to try it. He really could awaken this Overlord. Maybe I could have more confidence. The next morning, we continued to set off. On the road, some scattered monsters began to appear, like wolves and humans, walking upright, with their claws that could tear open the stone. When I first saw this thing, I was so scared that my legs were soft, but Graham didn't say anything, and he picked up the battle and slammed the monsters into meat paste in 3 or 2 seconds, and the blood was filled with it. I looked at the scene and my stomach was swelling, almost spitting it out. "Brave, just behave." Graham turned his head and grinned at me, and the battle in his hand was still dripping with blood. "This is just a small character, and the real enemy is still at the back." I was reluctant to be a little bit strong and thought to myself, if this is a small character, what would it be like? Alyssa didn't say much, but just reminded me to pay attention to the surroundings, saying that the dark force had begun to notice my existence, and the road ahead would only be more dangerous. Sure enough, on the 3rd day, when we finally approached the Broken Bone Valley, we were in trouble. At noon that day, we just crossed a hill. The entrance to the Far Island Valley could be seen. There were high cliffs on both sides, as if they were chopped open by a giant axe. The deep island valley was roaring and roaring, which made people feel creepy. Just as we were about to go in, the shrub next to us suddenly swayed, and then more than a dozen black shadows emerged from it. The iron-masked guy who chased me before, the knife in his hand flashed with cold light, and his atmosphere was even more ruthless than before. "Dark assassin," Alyssa whispered, and a light curtain instantly covered us. "They are Casar's men, specializing in the killing of the brave. Graham, protect Lin Hao." "Thank you to me," Graham roared, and the war hit the ground suddenly, shaking the ground. He rushed forward and fought with the assassins, flying in a group. Each shot was filled with thunderous force. Several assassins were directly smashed and hit the cliff. The sound of the broken bones made me tremble. But this time there are too many enemies, and even though Graham is hurt, it is impossible for him to seize all attacks at the same time. Several assassins walked over him and rushed towards me, and the sword light almost hit me on my face. I was so scared that I crawled around and hid. My heart beat so fast that it was about to explode, and there was only one thought in my brain: I don't want to die here. "Lin Hao, concentrate and use your call to help." Alyssa's voice came from the side, carrying a hint of anxiety. She was using magic to control several other assassins, and the light was jumping around her staff, but it was obviously a bit difficult. I won't," I shouted, my voice almost breaking. Although I woke up Graham before, it was on the fortress, with Alyssa helping me. Now my brain is blank in this way of life and death. I don't even remember how to use that power to summon me. Close your eyes and feel the seal of the summoning crown. Alyssa resisted the assassin's attack and shouted at me, "What you can do, believe in yourself." I bit my teeth tightly, closed my eyes, and tried to concentrate. The marks on my wrist began to heat up, and that blurry feeling appeared in my brain, as if there was a force guiding me. I recalled the feeling I felt when I woke up Graham before, and finally, a low voice echoed in my brain, "Brave, I will lend you my strength." The next second, I suddenly opened my eyes, and a golden light burst out from the mark on my hand, and the ground began to shake, and then a huge figure emerged from the light. It was a giant in heavy armor, 3 meters tall, holding a shield larger than my entire person in his hand, and an incredible atmosphere spread out on his body. "The Overlord of the Iron Wall, follow the call of the brave and protect my lord." His voice seemed to be coming from the underground, low and shocking. As the voice fell, he suddenly inserted his shield to the ground, and an invisible barrier opened instantly, protecting Alyssa and me. The assassin's sword slashed on the barrier, leaving no trace left. It's done! I watched the scene and was so excited that I almost jumped up, feeling that I was finally a little brave. Graham also took the opportunity to counterattack, fought a sweep, smashed the last few assassins, and calmed down in an instant. The Overlord of the Iron Wall turned over and looked at me with his head down. Although he couldn't see his face clearly, I could feel the recognition in his eyes. He said in a deep voice, "The brave, your calling has awakened my soul. From now on, I will protect your journey in the name of the Iron Wall." I clicked the excitement that I couldn't say in my heart, and felt that I was finally not the one who could not do anything. Alyssa walked to me and a difficult smile appeared on her face. "Well done, Lin Hao. The addition of the Overlord of the Iron Wall means that your summoning power has begun to wake up. But this is just the first step. Casar's subordinates will be more and more. We must seize the time and continue to find the soul fragments of other overlords." I took a deep breath and looked at the hidden red light deep in the Islam Valley. I knew in my heart that this road was still very long. But with Graham and the Iron Wall Overlord around me, I always have some confidence. Alyssa said correctly, Casar's strength will definitely not be able to let me go, and there will definitely be bigger challenges waiting for me next. Let's go, brave. Graham carried the battle and grinned at me. There are still many good things in the depths of the bone-broken island valley. Let's go and have a look. I clicked the head and followed them towards the depths of the yacht valley. Although my feet still hurt so much, I felt an inexplicable expectation in my heart. I don't know what I will encounter next, but no matter what, I have to be on my head. After all, it is not my style to retract now. After walking into the valley, the air became even more stressful, and the surrounding cliffs were filled with ancient ruins, as if they were recording some long-lasting battle. The Overlord of the Iron Wall was at the forefront, and the huge shield was ready to fight a possible attack at any time. Graham was standing behind me, fighting without leaving, and Alyssa used magic to explore the surrounding static. We walked forward carefully, and our feet were reminiscent of the island, which sounded particularly irritating. After walking for about half an hour, a huge stone door suddenly appeared in front of it, with a warrior pattern carved with a shield, which should be the image of an Overlord of the Iron Wall. A faint light radiated around the stone gate, but an ominous breath was revealed in the door, as if something dangerous was hidden inside. This is the door of the Iron Wall Overlord's test. Alyssa stopped and her language became particularly serious. Only by trial, you can truly gain all his strength. Lin Hao, are you ready? I looked at the stone door and my heart was pounding, but I still gritted my teeth and pointed. I've come here, so I can't just go halfway. Let's say, how can I try to get it? Alyssa clicked her head, her staff slammed lightly, and the runes on the stone door began to glow, and then the door opened slowly, revealing a passage leading to the underground. The passage deep was hidden and growled, as if some monster was waiting for us. I swallowed, clenched my fists and followed them in. The light in the channel became darker and darker, but an inexplicable aspiration ignited in my heart. No matter what kind of trick he is, he must be able to know how capable he is. The air in the passage became colder and colder, as if it could diamond into the bones. The surrounding stone walls were filled with ancient war patterns, and there was a smell of blood. I followed behind the Iron Wall Overlord, my feet rumbling in the narrow passage, my heart beating like a drum. Graham carried the war and looked back at me from time to time, as if he was afraid that I would fall. Alyssa held the tight staff, and the blue stone shone with a glimmer of light, illuminating the road ahead. What is this trick? I finally couldn't help but ask, and the sound was a little trembling when it sounded in the channel. To be honest, even though I had the Iron Wall Overlord and Graham beside me, I still felt that the atmosphere here was too depressing. Alyssa didn't look back, but said in a low voice, the Iron Wall Overlord's test is an examination of the will and strength of the brave. In that year, he defended the northern edge with his own strength, not only relying on the flesh but also on the indomitable inner self. You must prove that you are qualified to inherit his power, otherwise the soul fragments will never merge with you. Certificate? I curled my lips, thinking to myself why this sounded so mysterious. Isn't it just a fight? With Graham and the Iron Wall Overlord, I'm not afraid of any monster. Graham heard it, smiled, and said with a little bit in his low voice, "Brave, we can't try it alone. The will of the Iron Wall Overlord only recognizes the true brave ones. You have to stand up by yourself, otherwise we can't help you." I felt nervous in my heart. Although I didn't want to admit it, I also knew they were right. From the time I was called to the sky to the Great Wall, I have been protected. Graham and Alyssa are always ahead, and I am mostly a character who shouts to cheer. But if you want to become a true brave man, it will definitely not work by relying on others alone, and you will always be strong. Just as I was thinking, a red light suddenly appeared in front of the passage, a color like blood. It was immediately a low growl, shaking the stone walls slightly trembling. The Overlord of the Iron Wall stopped and his huge shield stood in front of him, and said in a deep voice, "Brave, the trial has begun. Be prepared for the challenge." As the voice fell, the ground at the end of the passage began to crack, and a huge figure crawled out of the crack. The thing was 5 meters tall and covered in black. It looked like a kind of crawling monster. Its pale liquid dripped from its claws and red light in its eyes. It was staring at us like a plate of vegetables. I took a step back with my calves trembling, thinking to myself, what's this? Why is it more scary than the monsters in the movie? This is the dark guard that the Iron Wall Overlord sealed that year, called the Purple Giant. Alyssa's voice was still cold, but there was a bit of solemnity in her language. It was stormed by the power of darkness and became the gatekeeper of the test. You must defeat it in order to enter the core and gain recognition from the soul fragments. Damn it. Just me? I pointed at myself, and my voice was almost broken. Sister, can this thing be slapped into a meaty puff? Brave, the power of calling is in your hands. The Overlord of the Iron Wall looked at me with a sense of unquestionable majesty in his voice. We can only help, and the real battle must be led by you. I bit my teeth tightly, and although I was reluctant in my heart, I also knew that retraction was not an option at this time. The summoning crown seal on my wrist began to heat up, and I closed my eyes and tried to concentrate and feel the familiar power. In the brain, the voice of the Overlord of the Iron Wall sounded again, "The brave, my Iron Wall, borrow your will." The next second, I suddenly opened my eyes, and a golden light burst out from the mark on my hand, and a powerful force penetrated into my body, as if the whole person was injected with a steel wire. I lowered my head and saw that there was a layer of translucent armor on my body, like a smaller version of the Overlord of the Iron Wall. I was holding a long spear in my hand, emitting a faint light. This is... I was stunned for a moment, feeling like I had changed the equipment in the game, and my body was filled with strength. Brave, let's do it! Graham yelled, and the battle slammed into the giant turtle, shaking the ground. The giant beast roared and slapped Graham hard, but the Iron Wall Overlord stepped forward with a quick arrow, and the shield slammed the attack, making a deafening sound of ramming. Lin Hao, attack its weakness! Alicia's staff blew, and a beam of light shot into the giant's eyes, forcing it to take a few steps back. Its belly is the thinnest, concentrate its strength to hit there. I clicked the head and held the long spear tightly. Although I was still panicked in my heart, I also knew that I could not drag my back legs at this time. I took a deep breath, rushed towards the giant beast, and ran around and shouted, "Come on, who are you afraid of?" The giant beast rushed over and roared, and its tail swept over hard, so fast that I could hardly react. Fortunately, the Iron Wall Overlord's armor helped me to hold most of the impact, but I was still swept a few meters and fell to the ground, so much pain that I was so excited. Get up, brave! Graham slammed the giant beasts all over the dance and shouted at me, "What's this little injury?" I didn't even say anything when I was trampled by the giant dragon that year. I gritted my teeth and got up, feeling that my bones were almost falling apart, but an inexplicable fire ignited in my heart. Yes, I am a brave man after all, and I can't even pass the first team trial. I held the long spear again, and took advantage of the air trap that the giant beast was controlled by Graham and the Iron Wall Overlord, and suddenly rushed under it and stabbed it hard on its abdomen. The long spear stabbed into the pike, making a harsh friction sound. The giant beast hurt, and a snarling roar, and the body slammed violently, almost throwing me away. I grabbed the long spear tightly, and there was only one thought in my brain: I can't let go. At this time, Alyssa's magic beam hit the giant's eyes again, and Graham's battle slammed hard on its back leg. The Iron Wall Overlord tightly topped its front paws with his shield, giving me the last chance. Go to die. I used all my strength to stab the long spear deeper. Finally, a big hole in the giant abdomen was torn open, and black blood spurted out. It let out a roar of unwillingness, and its huge body fell down, shaking the ground torn apart. I sat on the ground, gasping heavily, feeling all the strength in my body was exhausted. The illusory armor on his body also disappeared slowly, and the long spear on his hand turned into light and dissipated. Graham walked over, patted my shoulder, and grinned. "Fuck you well, Brave, you're a little bit like that of the year." The Overlord of the Iron Wall looked at me with a low head and said in a deep voice, "The Brave, your will has been tested. The fragments of my soul are officially handed over to you." As the voice fell, a golden ball of light floated on the giant beast's body, flying in front of me, and then blended into my wrist seal. A warm force penetrated my body, and I felt that my physical strength and spirit had recovered a lot, and even had a sense of difficulty, as if I could withstand any difficulties. Alyssa walked to me and pointed out, "Lin Hao, you did it. The spirit fragments of the Iron Wall Overlord have merged with you. From now on, his defense will become your trump card. But this is just the beginning, and other Overlord's trials will only be more difficult, and you must be prepared." I was a little bit too tired, but I felt a sense of accomplishment that I couldn't say. The first time, I felt that I was not a waste, but could really do something for this mainland. We continued to walk deeper into the passage and finally reached a huge underground sacrificial fortress. A larger ball of light floated in the center, emitting strong breath. This is the core spirit of the Iron Wall Overlord. Alyssa looked at the light ball, with a tribute in her language, fused with it: "You will truly inherit his will." I walked forward, stretched out my hand to touch the light ball, and in an instant, a powerful torrent of memory rushed into my brain. I saw the scene of the Iron Wall Overlord guarding the edge that year, saw every battle he fought against the Dark Force, and also felt his unyielding will. When the memory ended, I opened my eyes and felt like I had changed my personal life. The marks on my wrist were even more radiant, and the whole person was full of strength. "Let's go, there are more Overlords waiting for us next." I turned to Alyssa and Graham, with more confidence in my language. In the next few months, my teammates and I shuttled through various forbidden areas in the Tianlu mainland, experienced countless battles and trials, and woke up other souls of the foreign Overlords one by one. Every call makes me grow a little bit, and it makes me understand the terrible history of this vast land and the power of darkness. Casar's power is getting stronger and stronger. His assassins and monsters are almost gone, but with the help of the Overlords, we are ruined again and again. Finally, in the last forbidden area, the purpose of Black Purity, we welcome the final dispute with Casar. This is the darkest place in the sky-cracked world. The air is filled with the breath of decay and death. The sky is covered by black clouds, and thunder roars in the clouds. At the top of the turmoil of the Black Purity, a huge throne of darkness stood there. Casar sat on the throne, his body radiating with black fog, and his eyes were filled with angry light, as if he could see through a human soul. "Brave, you finally come." Casar's voice was low and sandy, carrying a creepy chill. "I've been waiting for this day for too long. Do you think that just waking up those old men can stop me? The fate of the sky-split land has long been dark." Small talk. I held the summoning seal in my hand tightly. The Overlord's spirit behind me appeared. The energy of the 7 Overlords gathered together, which shocked the entire black shaking. "Never you die today, or I die." Casal sneered, stood up slowly, and dark fog burst out from him, turning into countless black touches and rolling towards us. The battle exploded in an instant, and Graham and the Overlord rushed forward and exchanged fiercely with the Touchers. Alyssa's magical light shone in the darkness, trying to tear off Casar's defense, and I focused and tried to find his weakness. Lin Hao, his power comes from the dark core under the throne. Alyssa yelled at me, it must be destroyed to weaken him. I clicked the head, summoned the armor of the Iron Wall Overlord and the long spear of the Thunder Overlord, and carried the attack of the touch, and rushed to the bottom of the throne. Casar saw the situation, roared angrily, and took action. A black beam of light shot straight into it, making it suffocating. I bit my teeth and used the Iron Wall Overlord's armor to withstand the blow, but I was still shocked and turned into a scattered blood overflowed from the corner of my mouth. Brave, hold on. The voice of the Overlord of the Iron Wall rose in my brain, and then a sudden force penetrated into my body, allowing me to stand firm again. I yelled, and the long spear stabbed hard at the dark core below the throne. The power of thunder exploded, and finally shattered the core, and the black fog instantly dissipated most of the time. Casar let out an unwilling roar, his body began to tremble, and his power obviously weakened. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the Overlords cooperated to launch an attack, the flames of the Fiery Overlord, the flash of the Thunder Overlord, the frost of the Ice Overlord, all kinds of forces gathered into a destructive attack, rushing hard on Casar. Impossible, how could I give a mortal? Casar's voice became weaker and weaker, and finally, his body turned into a group of black fogs, dissipating in the air. The battle ended, the darkness of the purity gradually dissipated, and the sky revealed a long-lost blue color. I sat on the ground, feeling that all my energy was exhausted, but my heart was filled with pride. The Overlord's soul floated around me. The Overlord looked at me with a low head and said in a deep voice, "Brave, you have completed your mission. The balance of the great sky split will be protected by you." I clicked my head and looked at this scarred land, and my heart was filled with mixed feelings. Alyssa walked to me and showed a difficult smile on her face. "Lin Hao, you did it. But this reconstruction of the vast majority still requires your strength." I was silent for a while, remembered life on Earth, family and friends, but finally I was still at the end. "I need me here. I will stay and become the new Overlord and protect this land." Graeme grinned and patted my shoulder. "Good, brave. From now on, let's build this large area into a real home together." I looked at the horizon far away, and the blue color of the sky became brighter and brighter, as if it was a sign of a new beginning. Although there are still many challenges ahead, I know that as long as these partners are around, nothing can be overcome. The new journey has just begun.